second chance in the game.
All right, coaches, thanks for tuning in. My name is Daniel McDonald, defensive coordinator at Louisville Male High School. I'm going to talk to you today about the field dog pressure. In another clip, I showed you our boundary corner pressure. This one's going to come from the field. A lot of teams run it. I've heard it called the NCAA Blitz before, but we call it field dog. We know that it comes from the field. I'm going to give you a little overview of our defense in case you didn't get a chance to look at my last presentation. We're a 4-2-5 base. We've played around with the 3-4, but we found that the 4-2-5 really fits our personnel much better. As a defense, our mentality is that we want 11 to the ball every single time. We practice this in our drills. Every team drill we have, our defense doesn't stop the play until all 11 guys are to the ball. We run a lot of different coverages. We're very fortunate. We have a lot of players in our program, a lot of good players who know what it takes both mentally and physically to be good at football, good work ethic. So we're blessed and fortunate in that we have guys who are two platooning. We have an offense and a defense, and guys we very rarely have guys cross over. So we're able to run a lot of different stuff and get good at a lot of different stuff. So we do a lot of split field coverages. We do some full field coverages. We run everything from 2-read, 4-read, match quarters. We run a little robber, and we'll even go straight man-to-man sometimes. So we're able to run a lot of different stuff. As a 4-2-5 base defense, we have 5 DBs, 5 good, fast DBs, 5 good tacklers playing defensive back. So we want to make sure we're squeezing, spilling, and pursuing everything. And every blitz that we have is packaged. We first want to make sure it fits our personnel, that it's going to be effective against other teams that we're going to play against. And every blitz has at least one complement to it, a blitz that looks similar but is slightly different, and at least one illusion. So let's get into our field dog principles. I'm going to outline today first why we run the blitz. I'm going to talk to you about the key components and coaching points of the pressure, and then we're going to get into some film. So this one should be short, sweet, and to the point. I do have a lot of film to cover, though, so this one will be heavy, heavy film. First of all, why we run the blitz. It's a safe, effective pressure. It's a fire zone. If I had 6'3", 6'4" corners and DBs, I'd run a lot of man-to-man, but I don't have those guys. My guys are really good, but they're short, so I don't want to run a lot of man-to-man. So this is a safe, effective pressure for us. We're pressuring with 5, able to run a cover 3, look behind it. You can see from the diagram the movement is a little bit complicated for some offensive lines, for high school offensive lines at least. Now, we've got a couple of opponents who are good at picking this blitz up because they've seen it. But for the most part, most offensive lines they're not disciplined enough to react appropriately to this movement. And it's a good fit for our personnel. You see our strong safety is coming off the edge. That's one of our faster players. He's going to be a linebacker DB hybrid, but he's always going to be a fast guy. So to get him off the edge free is always good for us. Key components, I'm going to outline the key components and then I'll go into each one individually. The first thing we want to teach is our ends long stick technique. Second thing we want to teach is our Mike's read and attacking point. We want to teach our strong safety's attacking point. Our nose's movement. Our nose movement is absolutely crucial to this blitz. Our tackle to the boundary is going to have a low hat, high hat read and a separate attacking point depending on what he reads. And then our bandit has a low hat, high hat read as well. And I'll talk a little bit about the coverage behind it. It's kind of a cover 3 pattern match hybrid. Not a lot of pattern matching there, but if we scout certain patterns, we're not going to cover grass. So our ends long stick. We want him to go from a 5 technique all the way to the A-gap. He has to be a quick, strong athlete. He's going to be not a true defensive end in our system. He is a defensive end linebacker hybrid for us. So the guys that we have there, one guy's about 6 feet tall, close to 200 pounds, could easily play outside linebacker, but he's strong enough to play a defensive end for us. Sometimes he has to go from a 6 technique all the way into the A-gap. So there's a high demand on this guy physically. As he moves, now we want to start this off with some movement. So he's going to automatically move to this long stick, but he has to read high hat, low hat as he moves. We've played around in a couple. When I first got to Male, we played around with having a high hat, low hat read, and if he reads low hat, just sticking into his gap. But we found that we're asking this guy to think too much because that movement is so drastic and so such a long movement. If there's any hesitation there at all, he's not getting to it. So I went ahead and taught him to go ahead and get to where he's got to go. Don't worry about reading, just play quick. If he gets a high hat, he's going to dip and rip to the A-gap. And once he gets into that A-gap, he wants to get back to vertical. If he gets a low hat read, he's going to try to rip across the tackle and guard's faces. But if he can't do that, he can go back door and use the crash technique, which is basically just going back door, still closing the gap. But he's got to close that A-gap for us. He has to close the A-gap. If he gets low hat with action away, so a stretch to the opposite field, a guard pull, zone away, anything of that nature, he's going to long stick, but once he gets to that A-gap or even that B-gap, depending on where the guard's going, he's going to run the heel line. Okay, so he's got to make sure he moves horizontally down the line in any vertical movement. So if he moves vertical at all, he's creating a cutback lane, which, as most of you all know, against a zone team, if I'm a zone team and I've got guys creating cutbacks, that's good for me. So we want to make sure he stays horizontally down the line, doesn't get vertical, minimize that cutback lane. Our Mike's read and attack point. Like our end, he has to be quick, athletic, and smart, and he's got a sight adjustment he has to make based on what he sees here. The first thing you want to make sure you're teaching your Mike to do is to scrape paint off the end's rear. So you can see in this picture, he's got a good scrape there. That's a good contact point, a good attack point rather. The second coaching point, as he attacks, he's reading the movement of the offensive tackle. If that tackle closes down, if that offensive tackle widens, he's going to shoot the B gap right now. So say, for example, the offensive tackle were to see our strong safety blitzing and step out to him, our Mike is going to take advantage of that and hit the B gap now. If the offensive tackle crashes, our Mike is going to go ahead and stay on that C gap track. Regardless of the offensive tackle read, whether he goes C gap or B gap, our Mike has to go inside. He has to go inside any running back versus a 6 or 7 man protection, or any type of pulling guard. You know, there are some protections where the guard will pull back and peel back, or any kind of power or counter play where the guard pulls. He has to go inside of that action. 5-man attack is easy, or 5-man protection is easy. His attack point is the front shoulder of the quarterback. Our strong safety, he has to understand that he is the contained rush. He can't go freelancing out there. He has to stay outside of any protection. And on film here in a little bit, I'm going to show you why it's so important that he stays outside. Versus 5-man protection, that's easy. His aiming point is the back shoulder of the quarterback. Our nose movement is crucial here, and it's a little bit of a complicated movement. Our nose has to go from a 2 technique across the center's face. So he's crossing one gap over, the opposite A gap. We prefer that he stays square to avoid being washed. He has to use his hands. He has to get hands on that guard or on that center and get into that opposite A gap. We don't want him getting washed. That's an open gap for the quarterback to escape. Last year, and I'm going to try to teach it this year, we've taught our guy, our nose guard, that if he's strong enough, he can actually lock out that center and grab and pull him with him into the A-gap. What that does for us is it opens up the end's long stick. So we've got 3 threats who can sack the quarterback on this play. We've got the end who can get through on a long stick and make the play. We've got the Mike who's coming inside the protection, front shoulder of the quarterback. He can make the play. We got the strong safety who can make the play on the outside. So what we've seen a lot of is our strong safety is making that quarterback step up into what he thinks is a pocket, but here comes our Mike, and he's going to make a play on the quarterback there as soon as the quarterback steps up. Our tackle into the boundary, he has a hi-hat, low-hat read himself. If he reads hi-hat, he's going to become the boundary contain. He's going to be the escape route. He has to loop outside of any protection. I've got OT on the slide, but that needs to be any protection. He's got to loop outside. When we first install this, he has to over-exaggerate that movement. We say go extra wide. Get yourself into the habit of, okay, on our field dog pressure, I get hi-hat, I'm moving outside right now. Now, if he gets a low hat, it's a delayed enough movement. It's not absolutely crucial that he becomes a contain rush right now. He can be a little late to the contain. So if he reads low hat, he is going to anchor into a B-gap run fit. It wouldn't make sense for us to read run and stay outside. Our bandit, what we would call our outside linebacker defensive end hybrid to the boundary, our bandit. He has a hi-hat, low-hat read as well. If he gets a low hat, he's going to squeeze the offensive tackle just like he normally would for his run fit. If he gets a high hat, he's going to turn his hips right now into his pass drop. We say that his aiming point is 12 yards into the numbers, but he's going to adjust his aiming point a little bit depending on what route he sees or what routes he sees. This drop accomplishes two things for us. It disrupts the now throw to number 2 versus a 2x2 set. If they try to throw that now throw, they've got to at least put some air under it. He becomes a flat player, so his drop puts him underneath a hitch or a comeback or any kind of speed out, anything of that nature, to where if he's not picking it off, it's a tough throw. The quarterback has to at least put a little air under it. It's better for us if our bandit is, a taller, longer guy, but we've had a bandit or two who are a little bit on the shorter side. We just need a guy who's going to get the job done here. All right, film work. Going to get into our field dog pressure. You can see here we're actually playing around in this game with a 3-4 look. Our personnel dictated that we had really 3 true linebackers, not a true nickel. So we're playing around with a 3-4 look here. You can see our 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers. It really didn't change any of our assignments up front. So here's our outside linebacker getting outside. I'd like to see him get more outside onto that guy's outside shoulder. So as that quarterback tries to escape, there is no escape route for him. But he does just enough for us. He gets just enough outside to where our Mike's able to come right through that open B gap. You can see the tackle widen on him. Tackle completely ignores the long stick. Guard closes on the long stick. The tackle does some semblance of a vertical set. Here's our Mike. Good play for us. All right, I want you to look at our bandit's drop. This is a 3rd and long, so our bandit plays this a little bit faster. He's dropping right now. Probably look better off the wide shot. Okay, so our bandit right now, he's dropping. He turns his head. He's a little bit longer and more athletic, so he can get away with not turning his head fully and get into that guy's hip. But you can see him, he finds his aiming point. He gets into space. He's taking away any hitch, any curl, and he's actually sitting in a post window there. Pretty good drop for us. You see our free safety here. He's rolled down into what we call our scout 2. Takes away that seam for us. Sits in the curl window. Good play. I'd like to see my escape route get wider. Really make that offensive line bow a little bit more and get wider. But he's in a position right now to where if he has to, he can come off and make the play. So there he is on his contain. He's just a little bit late to it. Does a good job. See the movement better from the end zone shot. See our end long stick. He's going to go from his 5 technique all the way into this A gap. Our nose does a really good job of getting his hands on that center. I'd like to see him maybe pull that center with him a little bit more. See, he's aggressive with his hands. Go ahead and pull him. We taught our nose this year, this was 2 seasons ago, we taught him once he crosses A-gap, don't get too aggressive there. He's more of a spy waiting for this quarterback to step up. So if I'm a quarterback here, I'm seeing these 2 guys both coming free. Didn't want to do that. I'm seeing both these guys coming free here. I know there's no escape route to the field, so I can either step up here and try to avoid, or I can step here. We got both those escape routes covered. Our nose is waiting for him. Our defensive tackle has taken a wide route. Nowhere to go. Big safety for us. All right. You see our guys stemming here? We dialed this up at just the right time. They are in a tray set, tight end, slot, flanker. See, we're going from our 5 technique all the way to the A-gap. They free release that tight end. They can't account for any of those 3 rushers. You see the back, he's protecting against nobody, no rush. They waste him. Quarterback's got nowhere to go. You see our Will is becoming what we call a hole player. Our Will is dropping to the hole. He's matching or pushing rather number 3. He does a good job. If they throw that ball late, he's there to make a tackle. If they throw that ball behind number 3 at all, see our Will push to number 3 here, matching. It's a good look. I always get a little bit irritated when I'm watching clinics and the coach never shows us the final result of the play. So here's the play running all the way through. See, that quarterback is a load to bring down. Had our escape route gone a little bit wider, we might have been able to get him for a bigger loss, but it's still a loss of 1. I'll take it. Give you a look from the end zone shot. I like our Mike stem there. That's a good stem. He gets himself into blitz position. You see this guard actually pulls, or not, he doesn't pull, but he actually moves, over-exaggerates his move with our nose guard. He almost runs over his center. So our nose guard does a good job here. Opens up that long stick, nowhere to go. Now, I would have liked to have seen our Mike go inside the tight end here, shorten his route down a little bit. Really no need for him to go outside the tight end. If he goes inside, he's making the sack rather than our strong safety. So when he sees a tight end, he almost always has to go C-gap. Okay, that was a coaching point we need to do a better job of this year. He's got to go inside that tight end. He's got to go C-gap. He can't go any wider than C-gap. See, they're running into each other almost. All right, so we were playing around with some 3-4, a 3-4 look here because of our personnel. But it didn't really change our jobs. We're still getting outside pressure. Strong safety, he's staying outside. I'd like to see him attack that outside shoulder with his inside shoulder a little bit better. Go back to our long stick from our defensive end. He goes from a 5 technique. Because they're showing a heavy slide protection, it's not even a play action. They're sliding pretty quick, or it's a long slide, if you will. He's not able to get all the way to that A gap, but he goes to the first open gap available, which helps us out because it just widens that gap even more. So you see, he's trying to get into this A gap. He's trying to cross that guard's face. Guard is going away, so he just moves into the B gap, which is okay. Tackle collapses down, which leaves my Mike with a wide open alley. We don't quite get there, but we get a good hit on him. See from the wide view, we can look at the coverage a little bit. You can see my bandit to the boundary here. He does a good job reading pass. There he takes his first step, assuming it's a run. High hat. He's right underneath this hitch route. You see him turn his head and find it, get underneath. Had they thrown that, that's a pick six. See our Will is drop into the hole. He's going to match 3. You can see 3 goes out, so we know something's coming back. So there he is. He's just going to short wall that number 2 coming back in. Almost a pick. Get a better view from the end zone shot. All right, so he's reading pass. Here comes number 3 going out. Number 2's coming back. Would have been a big play for us. I'll take it, but you'd love to have that pick 6. Did everything right except make the play. All right, here's a good look for us. You're going to see a pretty solid, not quite a good long stick, but we make it work. We want our end to get across the guard's face. The guard squeezes. I'd like for him to obviously get there. It's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it works. Look at our Mike's read here. I'll go to the end zone shot. It'll be a little bit easier to see. Look at our Mike's read. See if he reads it correctly. Yep. Tackle squeezes. He goes C gap. He's inside shoulder. Good job. Let's check out our noses movement. Nose does a good job. He's got hands on that center. He's getting across to the opposite A gap. Bandit does a good job here. I neglected the bandit in the last clip. The bandit reads pass. He gets hands on number 2, and he's dropping underneath. Now this is a 2-by-2 set. Our Will is a little bit too quick to get over here. He's reading quarterback's eyes, but he's a little bit too quick. Our bandit takes away the now throw from number 2, but if the quarterback would have stayed on that a little bit longer, we're in trouble. The Will's just kind of being a football player here. I'd like to see him get a little bit more depth to give himself room to get over here to this number 2. But he's reading quarterback's eyes all the way. Quarterback doesn't even look over here to the right, to the boundary. So I'm okay with that. He's reading eyes. He's trying to go make a play for us. Let you see the end result. Our free safety does a good job of staying on this seam route. Takes the seam away. He undercuts it. That was our first touchdown of that game. That was a good turning point for us. All right, this is our first scrimmage this past season. We got the look we wanted here. Now, we made a couple mistakes, but they were correctable. Definitely got the look we wanted. First thing you'll notice is our bandit. Remember, he has a low hat, high hat read. So he's not quite getting a good read here because it's a play action pass. So he's getting a low hat right now. That's all low, firing out. That looks like stretch. So he's going to stick there. I'm okay with that. He can be late to a pass drop. But we don't want him bailing, which we've seen our guys do. We don't want that bandit to bail right now. He's got to be run first. So he's a little bit late. Our tackle is not really helping us out there. So if the quarterback would have escaped to the boundary, he's probably got a good escape route. Our tackle here isn't really doing much. He's kind of getting handled a little bit. We'd like to see him go out here. Can't fault the effort, but not getting the job done for us. All right, our nose Even though that's action away, our nose actually gets across the center's face, which helps us out tremendously. You see our end long sticks. Mike and strong safety read it correctly. Know where to go. End zone shot will show us better. All right, the Mike takes a really good attack angle here. He scrapes off that end's long stick. He's tight. That's good. All right, first thing you're going to notice, we're not in a 3-4 look here. We're still in our 4-2-5 look. Our strong safety is lined up way too tight. He needs to be out here. He needs to give himself a good angle to attack the outside. So I'd like to see him apexing tight end and number 1 so he can go outside of everything. The blitz still works out okay. What I really wanted to show this for was to show our free safety playing his scout 2 technique really well. You see he pushes and matches number 2. He's a little bit late to it, but that's the best throw they got. We dictate where we want them to throw. They're not going to throw it deep. We're bailing off. They're not going to throw that deep. That's the only throw they have. We rally up. They think they did something well. That's a gain of nothing. Same thing from the end zone. So our end isn't able to long stick here because the guard completely turns his hips, so our end just takes that B gap. All right, this one's good to show our bandit's drop and how he's able to adjust his aiming point or his drop based on what he sees the receiver doing. So it's hard to tell, but as he's dropping, his eyes are on number 1. Number 1 keeps pushing vertical up here. Number 1's continuing to push vertical. Our bandit sees him. Our bandit keeps gaining depth. Our bandit is actually sitting in that first post window. So he takes away the post. See it from the end zone shot. So our bandit drops right now. He adjusts his drop based on what number 1 does. He sits in the post window. The quarterback then has to throw to the next window. You can see the quarterback as he turns his eyes. He wants to throw here. He wants to go to this window. That window is closed by our bandit who's off screen. So what we see happening is, I got to throw to the next window. And our rover is able to read his eyes. He sees as soon as the quarterback's hand comes off that ball, he knows he needs to adjust and go get the ball. So our rover comes back to the next window. He closes that out. Good pick. All right, this is going back to our first scrimmage. With a lot of these pressures, you'll get teams burn you with a screen every now and then. This is our field dog versus a little slow screen into the boundary, which they should have gained. This should have been a good play for them, but our bandit plays this really well. You see us start to stem this a little bit, get ourselves into a better position. I'll show you the end zone shot first. All right, you can see our Mike stem a little bit, and our strong safety stemmed. Our end does a good job with this long stick. See our end goes all the way from a 5 down into the A gap. Our nose is able to cross face and pull that center with him. Mike takes the B gap because it's open. See the tackle sets out. He widens. We'll take it. Flush the quarterback. Obviously, they got a screen going to the boundary here. Quarterback can't get into his full screen drop, though. He has to get rid of this just a little bit early. The key here is our bandit and our tackle. Our bandit reads pass. He finds a threat, gets to his hip. Ball's not out yet, so he turns. He's finding his next threat, which is our running back. Does a good job staying outside. Slows that running back down. The running back cannot take this on the path he wants to go. The running back wants to take his path out here. But because our bandit's so aggressive, he takes that outside shoulder. Running back has to slow up a little bit and cut it up. Our contain, because we preach being relentless to the football, our contain goes from a contain rush to peeling back because he felt screen, he read screen, and now he's on a good angle to take this guy down. Good effort there. Our defensive line coach made him run after this, though, during practice because he teaches them to never leave their feet. Drive through. Run your feet through. Make that a strong tackle. You leave your feet, you lose all power. All right, we do a good job playing against this 3 stack here. You see they're going to do all kinds of crossing routes. So we're going to have one go in, another one go out. We match it really well. Talk about that first. So you see our free safety matches number 2 on the seam, takes that away. They have an open throw here into the flats, but that's going to be such a long throw that we can rally up on it. It's 3rd and 7. They may complete that ball at 4 yards. Anytime we can get off the field, we're fine. All right, let's look at the end zone shot here. Let's see if our movement's good. All right, look at our noses, hands. Look at the hands our nose plays with. He's going to shoot his hands right now. He's on that center. That center now has to engage with him. The center has no choice. He's got to engage. Pulls that center with him. Our end's able to long stick. Look at this. Because our guys up front do their job, I could drive my truck through that gap. I'd like to see our bandit or our strong safety get a little bit wider here. Still a good play for us. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. My contact info, if you have any more questions, is on the first slide. You're more than welcome to contact myself or my head coach, Chris Wolf. Thank you all for watching. Coach, I'm going to redo that sign-off. Pause and go back about 5 or 6 seconds. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Coaches, thank you all for tuning in and watching. My contact information is on that first slide. You're more than welcome to contact me if you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to know. I'll do my best to help you out. Good luck, coaches. Look forward to hearing from you all.